When you dare to share, you break the silence. When you dare to share, you speak your truth. When you dare to share, you use the full strength of your voice. When you dare to share, it brings opportunity to own your story. So tell it, be heard, and at the same time, your sharing is someone else's learning, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, and hope. There's always an element to each of our stories that remains a secret. For some, we feel it's a dirty little secret. Dare to share your untold story exposes these secrets in a welcoming and positive way. I encourage each of you out there to dare yourself to share what is yours to tell. When we dare, it is the courage to do something really important. Let this be a vow to each and every single one of us that we take risk, we brave, confront, and face what is, while inspiring and empowering all communities. So let's break that silence and tap into mental beauty. This is Salima Jadabji, your podcast host, a practicing social worker, and your mental wellness connoisseur. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast, episode number 98. Desperate for a pause with no break in sight, and she didn't even know it was burnout. To all my fellow listeners, before we get started, I'm just dropping in a note to give you a heads up that this podcast might be emotionally triggering for you. We do invite guests onto the show who share openly about extremely difficult life moments with exposure and impact of what the struggles have been like. The intensity of each episode could have a variable impact on your emotional and mental well-being based on your own personal story. If at any point the topic becomes uncomfortable or upsetting to you in any way, please do not pressure yourself to listen. Instead, be kind to yourself, do some self-care, and perhaps give another episode a try. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our courageous and daring guest, Gladys. Gladys is the International Associate Director of Fight for Freedom, a Canadian nonprofit organization that does outreach to individuals who have been impacted by sex trafficking and the sex industry. She has her master's in divinity and has been serving in this ministry field for over 10 years, currently overseeing all of the outreach and survivor care programming within the organization. Gladys became aware of sex trafficking while she was on a short-term missions trip to Asia during her Master of Divinity years at Tyndale Seminary School. Since then, through the guidance of her faith, she became passionate towards the cause of fighting against sex trafficking both within Canada and across the globe. She desires to see those impacted by sex trafficking receive healing, wholeness, and freedom. Gladys has also served in Youth Unlimited, where she had the opportunity to minister to street workers in her early ministry years. Since she joined the Fight for Freedom team 7 years ago, she also began to serve individuals through various platforms. She and her team continue to research and explore ways to respond to trafficking through both the impacted and demand sides. Well, hello there. Welcome, Gladys, to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, it is so great, Gladys, to have you as a guest on the show today. And I am really grateful for your willingness to be here and to tell your story. I've shared this a number of times before, but it's just so true. I'm truly humbled to encounter guests just like you who allow me to tap into their vulnerabilities and draw on their strength and insight and inspiration. And all of what gets shared in this space is just incredible. So I think it's of great importance that we take a stance together to help break barriers of mental stigma.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Gladys, in case you're still wondering, this podcast is all about bringing forward untold stories that people go through, whether it's directly about a mental health struggle or something else. And we know that no matter the story, there is impact on one's own mental health in some way, which remains tucked away.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so this platform, it serves in a way to break the barriers of mental stigma that have been conditioned in our society. So today, together, you and I, Gladys, I have a hopeful mission for both of us to encourage people to share and tell what individuals typically have reservation to express. And of course, I continue bringing forward a trend. It's called the mental beauty rethink. Gladys, what immediately comes to mind for you when you hear the phrase the mental beauty rethink?
I think of mental health as part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And it is important to pay attention to it, to acknowledge that we have that aspect within us. Really think of it as just a normal part of everyone instead of hearing the word mental, common to immediately think of mental health challenges.
Yeah, like something negative.
Something negative.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it is mental is also part of who we are. And it's just being a human being. There's not just always a negative side to it. It can be a neutral, it can be a positive experience in that aspect of who we are.
For sure. And do you feel that like that neutral and positive experience is something that kind of come in your thoughts when you hear the words the mental beauty rethink?
Yes,
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that, Gladys.
for sure.
Yeah. So Gladys, I'm hoping that you're warmed up for the deep dive we're about to have. Are you ready to
Yeah,
unravel together with me?
I think so.
Okay, great. Well, let's just jump right in then. Okay, Gladys, for our first question, give us the newspaper headline of how you would title your untold story. What would it say?
I think it would be along the line that faith guides my journey.
Say that one more time, please.
Faith guides my journey.
Faith guides my journey. Okay. So I'm wondering, without giving away your untold story at this point, can you explain a little bit about what this title means to you?
I believe that it is a journey as we walk down different experiences and different seasons of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's never a season or a situation or experience that defined who I am
Mm-hmm.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really liked the word journey. And faith involved in the every aspect of my life, even in more difficult or challenging seasons. And the story that we're going to talk about is related to the mental health side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And faith definitely plays a crucial role.
Right.
And that's why I think of it as like faith is like guides my journey. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's really beautiful way of really understanding that faith guides my journey and the meaning that journey has for you, as well as the impact and the importance that faith places on you and how you've been able to intertwine that is very meaningful. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's really segue into your untold story. So Gladys, tell us, give us that snapshot of what your untold story is all about.
Well, it is for sure about me.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes place in my home area, like Toronto.
Okay.
And then it takes place the past few years. So I would say it begins around 2020, 2021.
Okay.
And it's not just me. There are my close friends and then also my work team and all those also kind of involved in my story as well too, and my faith community. So work has been extra demanding during those years because there are like human resource challenges. One is finally kind of like closing and then the other one rise up. So as you can imagine, human resource complications can be very demanding and draining. And so that is happening in my workplace on top of the regular kind of responsibilities of supporting the outreach effort of programs and survivor care
Hmm.
efforts of our programming. So it is quite demanding.
Right.
And then on my personal side, I have my relationship with my ex-husband got very intense. There's just been very rough interactions. So when you think about it, work and personal life, like home,
Hmm.
both so demanding and draining. And I have no space.
Yeah, it sounds like you have no, when I'm hearing you say all this, it sounds like there's like no break. There's nowhere to get relief. Like when you're at work, you're flooded with all these demands and all these challenges, and it seems very go, 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 and your brain is very active. You have a multifaceted role. And then you go home to a very negative environment with a lot of intense and complex interactions. And you said some of the interactions were very rough. So I don't know where you got any peace of mind.
It is really hard. Then I
Yeah.
think the way to kind of survive in all those, I just turn into kind of like a machine, like just,
You became a machine.
yeah, seeing things as kind of tasks to complete and like problem to solve and just one thing and after another
Hmm.
and really couldn't think of any other things.
Right.
And then no place for me to really just feel like I can just sit down and breathe.
Right. And so whether you're trying to complete a task or solve a problem, it just sounds like there were so many things happening one after the other, like a ripple effect or a domino effect.
Yeah. And my mind,
Your mind was must have been racing.
yeah, because as I was working on one thing, I already starting to think of the next thing that I will kind of jump into after this one.
Oh, you're always thinking about the next.
Yes, always thinking about the next and prepare for the next. So it's like I don't even think, let me just focus on this one, finish it first,
Mm,
and then think of what is to do next.
yeah. You're like a bunny just hopping away
It
there,
is
right? Like this
a
Energizer bunny.
non-stop bunny, the
The
Energizer bunny. Yeah.
Energizer bunny, that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, if you're not feeling like you have any place to sit or breathe, like it sounds like you were on the brink of burnout.
I did not even realize it.
At the time, you didn't realize it, but it sounds like that's what was going on when you
Yeah.
describe all that to me.
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm really curious because you said that it was your work colleagues that did an intervention with you. So I'm really curious about what this intervention was. Can you share?
It really took a village to get me to realize the state that I was in.
Hmm.
So first is my work team.
Okay.
So after all those like human resource things kind of settled and kind of closed, and then they were like, "Wow, you have been really just a lot of energy that you have put in that. Like it was rough and it was tough, and like maybe you need to take some time off just to recuperate."
Yeah. It sounds like they were kind of taking like a little gentle approach with you, like, hey, you worked really hard. Maybe take some time and settle yourself.
Yes.
So they were being very gentle in their approach initial. I guess I don't know if anything changed, but that was how it started.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's not just a one-time conversation.
Okay. Multiple conversations.
Yeah, after maybe like couple months, they would say, "Oh, maybe you can consider like a sabbatical of like a couple or a few months off, relax yourself, and just give yourself some breathing room, right?"
Hmm.
And then so that is the message that they will tell me from time to time,
Right.
saying like, "Have you taken any vacation days? Like, do you have any plans?"
Hmm.
At the same time, my close friends,
Hmm.
they will be like, "Oh, you're constantly experiencing like pain, whether it is like migraine, headache, back pain, neck pain.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe you need to slow down and like really just take some time to look at all those pains." And I also have trouble sleeping during those times as well too.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to like stay asleep.
Was it easier for you to fall asleep but not stay asleep, or did you have trouble with both?
No, I mainly have trouble with staying asleep.
Okay.
So I would be like quite sleep deprived. And then they would be like, whenever you're tired, just sleep. Just take a nap.
All these suggestions and all these concerns being brought forward.
I think the message, because it's quite consistent,
Yeah.
whether it is like my close friends and workplace, then I started to think that, oh, maybe all the physical pain that I'm experiencing or the sleep, maybe it is really related to the intense season that I just walked through.
So how long did it take you to get to that point where you were like, okay, starting to contemplate, okay, maybe these things are, related to this intense season I'm in? From the time that your work team used their gentle approach to all of the things that happened until you started to contemplate. How much time was that?
I would say at least a year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was still really just continue to just doing work, going from one responsibility to another, or like one task or project after another.
So the other thing I'm curious about, Gladys, is before you got to that stage of contemplating that, oh, there's a consistent message I've been receiving over the year. When you were hearing these things, right, from your work team, the people who really cared about you, or your close friends, and everyone was using a really gentle approach and a kind, loving approach, it seems, like supportive and encouraging. As they would say these things to you, what would you think in your mind? Were you just very dismissive of it, or were you trying to convince yourself? I'm just curious about what happened in your mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's dismissive, but I definitely in my mind, I'm like, no, no, I don't think it's as bad as you.
Okay, so downplaying it.
Yeah, it's mainly downplaying it. Or maybe I'm like, no, I think I can still handle it. Like, it's not too much.
Right.
Like, I'm still able to kind of do whatever that I need to do. But I did respond in saying that, okay, I will like try to take a day off here and there.
Right.
But then during those day off, my mind is still kind
Right.
of
Because it's not enough.
still on the things that,
Right.
like I mentioned, I never just finish one thing and then think of the other. So during my so-called day off, I was still kind of think of the things that I can do and how I can do it after my day off. But I did start to take a day off or two. At least I'm doing kind of those things.
Right.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it is really downplaying and saying that, no, I think I'm still okay. I can still manage.
Yeah, it's like you're convincing yourself too, right? And trying to convince people around you and just downplaying it by saying, "Oh, it's not so bad. I can handle this. I can manage. No need to take
Yes.
time off." And then it's like, you really
Yeah.
should, okay, I suppose I could take a day off here or there. Thank you for acknowledging that I'm working hard. So you might have like thought about it in that way and go, "Okay, sure, I'll take a day off."
Yes.
I guess that taking the day off, maybe it still served a little bit of purpose, but maybe it might not have fulfilled the purpose that people
Yeah.
wanted it to fulfill. And if your mind was still so preoccupied in all this thinking and planning and next steps, I don't know how much of a break it really felt like, other than just not being in the same office environment.
Yeah, true. And also, I think I attribute my physical kind of those different aches and pains
Mm-hmm.
to like, it's just because I had two really bad car accidents before. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
oh, and because of that, just flaring up. Maybe it's my sitting posture hasn't been so good.
So you're saying like I'm susceptible to more pain because I had these accidents, which holy moly, I didn't even know that that happened for you. I'm so sorry you went through two accidents. But now you're saying
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, no, this is not a current problem. This is a pre-existing. I'm susceptible to pain, because musculoskeletal injuries, and you know how it is, right? You sit wrong and this tightens up and that tightens
And
up.
then it will get triggered. And
Right. So you're talking yourself through it by giving all the excuses of what else could be the issue, like other reasons for it, excuses and reasons other than admitting, yes.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm just kind of using other things
Mm-hmm.
that's saying that it's not because I'm just so busy or like just not pausing or resting
Mm-hmm.
that I'm experienced like not sleeping well or like the pain, but it
Yeah.
is because of things that happened in the past,
Right.
like the car accident.
Well, do you think that you were in a bit of denial?
At that time, probably, yeah, I would say probably, yeah.
Right.
Well, during that time, of course, I didn't know, right? And then now, kind of looking back,
Yeah.
and yes, I would say so.
Denial is a form of resistance, right? So it sounds like everyone who was trying to bring something to your attention, I feel like their intention was to be gentle and subtle so that they could encourage you, so that it didn't feel forced, in hopes that you could see it as a loving gesture, as a kind, caring thing. I think you and I both know that when we resist something, it persists, right? Even as people are having these things of encouragement in your mind, you're like, no, I don't need it. I'm good. Everything is fine. Like telling yourself that you're okay. And I think what happens is we sometimes don't realize that we are in so much denial. There's this idea that, if we don't think about a problem, it'll go away. Right? So you might not even have been thinking that you even had a problem.
Yeah. Or try to reason it out, right?
But by doing all those things, what's essentially happening is you're suppressing unwanted thoughts and unwanted feelings. But that's what denial is that it's a suppression of it. And when we suppress it, it just gets stronger. So your
Hmm.
patterns of what you experience probably kept getting heightened, and your denial probably kept increasing because the resistance persists, right? And I think that when you're avoiding uncomforting emotions and thoughts, you're not able to see them clearly. And so if you're not able to see them clearly, there's no way that you're actually going to be able to attend to them, right? Even though everyone was using a gentle approach, a person can still resist when they're not ready and still resist when they've suppressed so much. And it kind of
Hmm.
sounds like part of the process that you've been describing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then so later on, my close, like a few of my close friends, then they probably see that those like gentle approach is not really
Yeah.
working
And they're
for
like, we need to
me.
do something a bit
So
more like direct.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
so they would then like, oh, let's go for like weekend getaway or something,
Oh,
right?
that's so nice that they're trying to include you in a trip now. Okay, that's so sweet.
It is because at that time, one of the reasoning that I was telling myself is like, no, I still take time off. I'm still able to manage things. And then so my time off,
You were ruminating the entire time you were off.
exactly. So my friend
Yeah.
would then say like, then why don't your time off, we do it together and then go like a weekend getaway. It is during those nights that I'm geographically not in Toronto. Then I was able to sleep better. Then I also noticed I was able to not just constantly thinking of the next thing that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
The first night, sleep is still pretty much the same as before.
Right.
But then the second day, I was able to sleep so well. Like I would be sleeping without waking up in the
Right.
middle of the night.
It sounds like your body surrendered. It's almost like it had a chance to de-escalate and calm down.
Yeah, exactly. Or my body picks up on, oh, this is a different
Yeah.
location. And then so my body is like, oh, maybe I can relax, right?
Right.
But then the next day, which is the last day of the getaway,
Right.
I started to wake up and my sleep isn't as good
Mm.
because I am thinking of going back
Right.
the day after, right? Then I start to realize maybe I'm really stressed when I'm at home or like when I'm back in where my life takes place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so finally this idea started to kind of appear, even though my close friends or like my teammates have been telling me in different ways.
Right.
I think also it started to get me to think, oh, the geographical distance, what makes my body able to feel relaxed?
Right.
And then I think, oh, maybe I'm just not feeling safe at home. And then my teammates, especially my supervisor, once again brought out the thing that, like, have you thought of taking 2, 3 months sabbatical?
Mm.
That I think that would really benefit you. I just say, yeah, maybe I should. So I started planning a 3 month sabbatical in 6 months' time.
Okay.
So it's quite a process.
Yeah, it was quite a
Yeah.
process. I'm curious, I don't know, Gladys, if you're able to share, but you mentioned that, when you were starting to consider later on, like, okay, when you started to have these new downloads of the insights you were having, and you were making connections on geographical distance, and where you were noticing that you were able to let your guard down and your body was, responding differently. You also mentioned not feeling safe at home. Was there any physical danger that you were in at home?
I would say at home there are really like intense moments, and I would say it's the emotional.
Mm-hmm.
That's the primary. And
Mm-hmm.
then that comes with just words and
Like negative altercations and stuff like that, like verbal altercations.
yeah,
Okay.
verbal, and like there could be physical too,
Okay.
even though it's not like directly direct to me, but there is something that is
Like things being thrown around in the environment.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So definitely that also making me aware that it is just unsafe.
Well, yeah, I mean, even to experience, objects being thrown around, like that's frightening, and if it's not something you can even control, of course you'd be more on edge, and and
Yeah.
and worried a lot.
Yeah, I remember maybe like 2, 3 months before I actually decided I need to plan for my sabbatical.
Hmm.
One night, it got so intense and rough that I actually thought of just run into a shelter.
Okay.
I think that also is one of the contributor of thinking of a sabbatical that would be able to allow me to give some more space to really think through my personal side as well too. Yeah.
Right. That flag was like a real anchor to pivot into considering to do something different. I mean, it must have been so intense.
I think that definitely is one of the pushing factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then another one is the realization that how come my body is responding that way when there is that geographical
Hmm.
distance,
Right.
and fully my time is just spending with close friends, just trying to enjoy whatever it is.
Right. It's like being with your heart connections and removing yourself from an environment that hasn't been healthy for you.
Yeah. Because they're engaging me in conversations and like we're activities together, right?
Hmm.
And then so my mind would then not constantly thinking of what is the next thing.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is that you were really present with your friends, right? Because they were really
Yes.
encouraging you and you were doing activities together, you were enjoying, maybe talking, laughing, that you were so present that your brain is not going to the old thoughts and the other demands. And you
Yes.
had an opportunity to really decompress.
Yes. Without me realizing I was actually
Yes.
decompressing.
Yes, you didn't know it at the time that that was happening,
Yeah.
but it sounds like when you're describing this that it's like that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I took up on that offer
Mhm.
and then saying that, yeah, I think I need to take a sabbatical. And then so I planned a sabbatical 6 months after that point.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then I actually went far, not even within Canada. Those 3 months, I went to the other side of the world, Asia,
Okay.
for 3 months. Yeah.
So is that when you went to do your mission work, or was that a second
No, it's
time?
just really just a sabbatical.
Okay.
The other side of the world.
Mhm.
Let's do it.
Okay. So you are
Yeah.
really feeling clear, like the geographical distance. The further I am, the deeper my healing can be.
Or like there's not much of the environmental things that will make me start thinking about work or the home interactions,
Exactly.
right?
I think
Yeah.
environments play a big role in your healing. So I think if you recognize that geographical location was really critical for you by that point, you've been to Asia before. So you
Mm-hmm.
know what to expect in terms of environment. So it was probably
Mm-hmm.
calling you, like it felt soothing maybe to just even think about it. Yes, I can go there. That would be a good location for me. That would be soothing for me.
Yeah, it's so important when we think of our mental health. Space is never neutral.
There's always things that can influence you, right? The environment influences. Yeah. It was a very strong reminder because of the impactful experiences you were having.
Also, just before the sabbatical time,
Hmm.
even though we made kind of a work arrangement and things like that, my mind is still thinking, oh, like, is it really okay? But then our pastor's wife, she has been praying for me, and then she shared with me something that she received in prayer and saying that, like, you know what Jesus wanted me to tell you is the sabbatical trip, you kind of plan it yourself, but actually it is a trip that Jesus has prepared for you
Mm,
because he sees that you are like a flame just
mm,
flickering and it's about to get snuffed out.
right.
And then when I heard that imagery,
Hmm.
I really resonated with it. And then at that time, just before entering the sabbatical,
Right.
I realized that's right. I am really burnt out.
You had the awareness. And it sounds like this woman who spoke to you after she shared that intimate piece of information, it seems like from what you're saying to me, is that you finally gave yourself permission to go and heal. That you were like, okay.
Finally, it's like letting go of all my reasoning,
Hmm.
letting go of all my excuses, and
Exactly.
then really able to enter into the sabbatical with that understanding that this time it is a time for me to rest,
Hmm.
heal, instead of still thinking that I'm not too bad, but maybe some rest will be good for me, kind of somewhat in a denial enter into sabbatical. I think that 3 months would have looked so different.
Right.
It would not be as healing.
No, because you went with clear intention, right? You had that mental
Yeah,
clarity. It was so clear. Okay, this is what
yeah,
I'm going through. This is the depths of this. And now I have the opportunity to work through it.
yes,
That's
yeah.
lovely.
So that's why I call it intervention
Yeah,
because it is not really just within myself that I came to that point that is ready for that sabbatical. Yeah.
that's so fascinating. All right. So, Gladys, when people come to see me for therapy, individuals are typically in one of three places. Some people are getting started where they're just coming to me with all of their life demands and life history, and they know they just need to start talking about things. Some people are in the thick of things. They're in the middle and they're in the middle of maybe an acute stressor and it's triggered other things. Some people are looking back. Some people are looking back to get some closure, or some people are looking back to deal with some unfinished business so they can move forward in the next part of their journey. So for yourself, with regards to your untold story, what part of the journey would you say that you are in? Would you say that you are getting started, in the middle, or looking back?
I would say is a merge between looking back and getting started.
So you mean like you're in the middle then?
Not so in the sick as maybe it is like from that burnout, I would say that it is looking back.
Okay.
But then because of that whole experience of
Hmm.
receiving rest and
Hmm.
healing and deeper understanding and clarity,
Okay.
then it opens up kind of like at the beginning of other things that I need to sit longer with or like look into.
So it's kind of like the looking back is that completion of the burnout and that journey. But that as that journey closed, it almost seems like what you're saying to me is another journey is opened where now
Exactly.
it's like I
Yeah.
get to be curious about, receiving rest and getting a deeper understanding of myself and what are the other areas to explore and how is this new way of life that I'm going to live continue to maintain itself. So I see what you mean. So there's that one piece that you've looked back and now you've started to embark on something new.
Yes.
Very cool.
In a sense, it's like empowering me to kind of look forward.
Yeah. It's like not only are you empowered, but it's like this idea of like feeling motivated or feeling like you can look forward to what comes next, even if you don't know what that next thing is.
It is. And also the experience shaped me
Mm-hmm.
to grow
Mm-hmm.
because now I'm no longer burnt out. So it kind of creates new capacity for other things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So you started to talk about how your mental health was impacted. Like you talked about, even having trouble sleeping and physically, like your body was starting to give you signals for pain and discomfort. You had a lot of ruminating thoughts and a lot of things that you were kind of dealing with at one time. I'm just curious if you were to talk about how your untold story was affecting your mental health. What else would you say that your mental health was affected by?
Now that I'm looking back, then I can say that also is somewhat in a way kind of numbing.
Right. So, like a freeze mode, the fight, flight, or
Yeah.
freeze. So, that part of the nervous system that just freezes.
Yeah. So you're not really truly feeling.
Mm. Well, yeah, you were going through all those motions, right? Like one thing after another. Like
Yes.
everything was becoming a task and a schedule and a routine, and you weren't really spending any time feeling.
So I'm truly grateful to my close friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that numbing effect, I'm not able to connect very well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then maybe I'm just there, but not fully there
Yeah.
without even me knowing. But they continue to just be there for me, reaching out and just kind of creating these activities that we can go together
Right.
and trying to engage me in ways that I can at that time.
Right. And it's so nice to have that support, right? Like that level of
I'm
support.
blessed with,
Oh, that is such a blessing.
yeah, I'm really blessed with good friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it, but my friends would be saying that you're too skinny. And I'm
Mm.
like, no, I'm not. I'm eating a lot. And then now that I'm looking back at the burnout and then look at my kind of physical condition now, I would say, yeah, I was way skinnier than now just recently. And this is not the first time I hear it. I met up with someone I haven't met for like 2 years.
Hmm.
She commented, it's like, oh, you no longer look gray. You finally have some color on your face.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I didn't notice it. Yeah, some people say like, oh, you're so gray, or like you look so yellow and pale before now you have some color.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like your physical health was really impacted.
Yeah.
Your physical body was really taking a toll from all the
Yeah.
mental load and that toll from the mental load. That freeze response and not feeling and not really being present kind of sounds like you were in survival mode, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say I was just really in survival mode.
Yeah, and not able to connect emotionally and not able to nourish yourself consistently or have appetite changes you didn't even know you were having, for people to notice, right?
Exactly.
For people to notice that, oh, you looked gray, you didn't look very well. And I mean that's
Yeah.
also very hard to hear. But it seems like those were all the things that you were experiencing or that your body was faced with, right? So that
Yeah.
sounds like there has been a lot of growth since that time, and a lot of impact that you had from this burnout experience and everything that came at that time.
I definitely receive a lot of restorations and
Hmm.
kind of healing since that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very good. And so I'm curious then. So tell us, what is your key message to the listeners of our show? What do you want them to know?
Definitely pay attention to people who care for you,
Hmm.
what they say to you. If you notice that there's like repeated things
Hmm.
that they are trying to say to you, then really try to pause.
Hmm.
Try your best to kind of hold off your reasoning or like
Hmm.
downplaying and really just try to listen. Be intentional to plug yourself with at least like some good friends, right? Really intentional to build up that group around you, because I would say it is with their continual caring and trying to care for me that helped me to a point that I started to realize and there is something off. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful also for my workplace that actually has that system in place that I'm able to take the sabbatical.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So don't be afraid to take time off work, right? Like, I mean, if don't to pause and to take time that you need,
It is.
no matter what sort of
Yeah.
scenario you're in. That's important as well.
Yeah. I would say definitely be intentional in surrounding yourself with people who can be honest with you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful message that you've shared, and I'm sure it's going to be very encouraging to the listeners of our show. So, what I'm curious about right now for you is what is your game changer inspiration that's close to you that reflects your untold story? So, was there like an inspirational quote or book or a person or an event or a place that really spoke to you, that maybe it was like a aha moment or just something that really like was game changing for you that inspired you to pivot?
I would say the imagery
Mm-hmm.
that the pastor's wife shared with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that really reminded me of the Bible verse from Isaiah 42, verse 3. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. And it really just described that imagery. It's like I'm like that kind of flame,
Mm-hmm.
like the smoldering wick
Mm.
about to get snuffed out.
Right.
But then he intervened
Right.
so that I can truly enter into my sabbatical time with the clarity.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Then I also recognize what my friend has been telling me and has been doing.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So, what is a cause or an organization that has been impactful to you on your journey that you would like to give a shout out to?
So the cause that I am a part of, fighting against sex trafficking, reaching out to individuals impacted by sex trafficking and the sex industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this journey really just reminds me that when we're experiencing a lot of things that like really impacting us,
Mm-hmm.
like when I was in survival mode, like I'm in denial, it's not easy, and I will just continue on if without that intervention.
Right.
So it just gives me a greater understanding of like when people are placed in a very difficult situation, it really needs that persistent reaching out.
Right. And so, the organization that you want to give a shout out to is
Fight for freedom.
okay. That is perfect. So, how can people connect with you, Gladys, if they would like to? What are the social media channels that you use?
Definitely, I would say the social media channels of like Fight for Freedom. Best way to reach me is just email. Yeah.
All right. Well, the good thing is that we were able to grab that information from you. So it should be on your show notes page already. So we've got Instagram and Facebook for Fight for Freedom, as well as your email and the website. So, Gladys, guess what?
Yes.
No guesses? You've just dared yourself to share. Congratulations. You did it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me to share.
Yeah, no, actually, Gladys, I am so grateful to have you on the show. I would just like to even take a moment to express my gratitude for the deep story shared in this space today and being able to uncover your journey through burnout, all the work that went into recognizing that you were experiencing it firsthand, and the vulnerability to speak freely about how burnout manifested across all parts of your life. Your story is definitely meant to be heard. And like I said, I'm truly grateful to have been able to hear and witness your story today. So thank you for the deep caring and for all the daring and sharing.
Thank you again for inviting me.
Absolutely. Once again, Gladys, thank you for being part of Dare to Share Your Untold Story and helping to be a voice in breaking down the barriers of mental stigma. To all of our listeners, if you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and you want to be part of breaking down barriers of mental stigma, I invite you to go wherever you are listening to the episode and hit subscribe. Leave us a comment or a review of the episode and maybe how you relate to it. To learn more about what we offer, visit www.daretoheal.co. And if you are feeling ready and brave to share, please submit your story by visiting www.daretoshare.co. Thanks for joining in.